All right, so here I am in my captain's chair, so to speak, and this is basically my control room. I didn't really make a formal studio, so I use this library room as the control room. So right here there's a beautiful window that has a lovely view of the mountains that I get to look at, but for the purpose of the video we got to close that because you won't be able to see me properly. But this is my desk where I have a remote keyboard and the thing to play back, to control the speakers and what have you, the Pro Tools computer. In the old days I had the big Pro Control thing. I didn't see any reason to put that in here. I still have it, but I didn't hook it up. And here on the desk, I've got some reading material, roomy, something to read. Someone gave me this cool book, the Zen book, so when I feel a little nuts I can read that and turn my brain in a different direction. I'll show you here, if you look to the bottom, this is the amp that I've been recording with lately. That's a Victory Richie Kotzen model head, a 100-watt head, and that's the very first version. There's only one of those in the world. That's the prototype. Now you can buy the final version, which has more features than this, and I actually like the final version better than this, but that was put there before I had the final version. So that is what I'm using. I can get a lot of different sounds out of that. The cabinet is downstairs, which we'll show you later. So the studio setup is kind of unorthodox. I got my control room here, and then downstairs is the tracking room, because this house is kind of multi-level. Now I'd like to show you what I'm recording with. These speakers are the Genelec. I think they're 1031 or something is the model. I love those a lot. Many years ago I bought some vintage gear, so I bought these Telefunken mic preamps. They're V72s. They have equalizers. This is a Neve, but it's a reproduction. This is something I just got that my friend Larry DiMarzio sent to me, which is a really cool sounding preamp by Inward Connections. Here we've got the real vintage 1073s, the Neves, which sound great. And then I love these Anthony DeMaria tube compressors. It basically emulates an LA2A, but I don't have the LA2As. I have these. They're hand wired. They sound wonderful. So my all my lead vocals will go through the 1073 into the DeMaria compressor, and that's my sound. And normally I use a U87 that I just found out was built in 1975, but recently it's been making a weird noise, so I don't have it wired in right now. I'm using another custom microphone that you can see right now. That microphone is basically a U87, but it's hand built with all really fantastic components. And then moving on here, I've got the Manley stuff that I love. This is all tube stuff, and this right now are my overheads on my drums. This is 4 channels of Focusrite, another 2 channels of Focusrite including compressor EQ, 4 channels of API with EQ. This is a really cool mic preamp made by a company called Overstayer. My friend Jeff Terzo makes this Overstayer stuff, and he was my neighbor for not 20 years, but I lived in the other house for 20 years, and for a good chunk of that time he was my next door neighbor, and he makes these things and they sound great. Of course you got the DBX compressors, but the main reason I'm showing you all this stuff is because the way I do my records is that everything is always set up at all times. So for example, I got my guitar microphone coming into my buddy's preamp here that has a compressor in it and an EQ tone knob. So that's always there. The microphone's always in front of the guitar. Kick, snare, always going. Overheads, always going. Some tom microphones, always in line. And then if I bring a keyboard in, I can plug into one of these producer packs, and of course my vocal signal chain, and I still have open channels. So the point of the matter is once the mics are set, they stay set. And if today I'm working on a guitar and I want to go back and fix a drum thing from 2 weeks ago, I can go downstairs and punch in, and the drum channel is all there, ready to go. And so that's how and why I'm able to do what I do when I make my records and be in here alone. A bit of running up and down the stairs, but I have something very clever downstairs. I have a big TV monitor that mirrors this and a separate controller. So if I'm sitting behind the drums and I make a mistake, I can just rewind and punch myself in. So that's really the way it works. And then over here, I just got my strings I keep there. If you look over there, there's all kinds of pedals, and this is about half of the pedals that I actually have. You know, I got way more stuff than that, but those are the ones that I was using recently. And then over here, I just got some random pictures and photographs. And there's me and Bill Withers, who I've become friends with recently. We've been hanging out at his house here and there. My wife, he loves my wife Julia, and picture of me and Billy Sheehan there, and Mike Portnoy going at it, and some family pictures and what have you. A bunch of old stuff that I don't know what to do with, and then there's what else? Some puppets, as you can see. I love marionettes and that sort of thing. And there you go. That's the room. Alright, so now our photographer friend here saw this collage and couldn't resist filming it. So this is a picture of me and my first band over here. We were called Axis, and this fella here, Corin, who is still my good buddy, we started the band together. That's me, that's him, and we both sang. He sang much better than me. And we were playing there. Oh, there's a picture of me singing way back in the day, and playing the red Yamaha guitar. And then there you see me with the SG that I told you I wish I still had. And then there's me dressed like Gene Simmons, which I still sometimes, when no one's around, put that costume on. And yeah, it was the young Richie, you know. Well, back in the day, getting my hair done, you had to have your mullet had to be tweaked out and teased. And there's the classic 80s haircut. You see that? The mullet cut, which some people still like that hairstyle. And then here's a good story. That's me and Corin, same guy. And in order to be in the high school band to play guitar in the jazz band, you had to be in the marching band. So I played the little drum and he played the big drum, and I never looked at the music. He used to read it perfectly, and I didn't bother reading the music. I'd improvise, and every now and then I'd get yelled at by the band leader. But that's how I am. And that's it. Alright, here we are in the dungeon that I call it. This room I put together. This was just a room, concrete room, and I put the door here. I cut it out myself because I wanted it to look like an old church door. And then I put up the woodwork and put all the cabinets in over there. If you look, you can see. But basically, this room is designed for torturing people. No, it's designed for me to practice with my band, and it's also my my drum room and my live room. So these are the drums that I use, that I record all my records with. And I bought this drum set in 1994 in the parking lot of Garage Center. Garage Center, what am I saying? Guitar Center. What is wrong with me? Guitar Center. I went there to get a drum set, and there was a guy, he had this in his car, and I said, "What are you doing with that?" He said, "I'm selling it." So I gave him $500, and this has been my drum set since 1996. And a lot of great drummers have played this set. Even Paul McCartney's drummer, Abe, played this set at my house many, many years ago. So a lot of great drummers have played this kit. And this is how I was miking it for my record. I had two overheads and the toms, and then snare drum. But recently I was recording something, and I did something kind of wacky. I had this tom mic and this ribbon mic were going through my tube compressor and mic preamp, and then kick and snare. And I got the coolest drum sound with no overheads, just miking the toms, like this, the way they're mic'd exactly, kick and snare, and I got this really cool sound. Now the only way that that drum sound really works is if you have your toms really dead. So these toms sound like 70s really dead, but I like that sound, and in a live room like this, even though they're technically dead, when you play them, they do resonate and sound quite good on the recording. So that's a little thing for you guys to try with the drums. Just try not having the overheads, a tom mic, and the low tom mic is the key. See how that's positioned going across? That's a good trick to do the kind of thing that I'm talking about. And then over here, if you pan around, you can see that I have my electric pianos here. There's another room in the house that has my keyboards. And then when I need a different keyboard, I'll bring it into the control room. But to have all the keyboards in there, it gets a little claustrophobic. I did have them all in there when I was making 50 for 50 because it was just me. But recently I've been working on a project with another person, and so I took the keyboards out so I have more room to do what I'm doing. Another cool talking point, this thing here is a really cool amp. I haven't recorded it in a very long time, but a guy just came here and serviced it for me, and it's an old Marshall, I believe it's a 68 Plexi Super Lead bass. And so whenever I can't get my signature amp, I always ask for a reissue of this, because it's just such a clear, percussive, loud amp. I really love it. And so this is probably worth a couple bucks. Like I said, I don't have a lot of vintage gear, but I do have a couple of cool things, and this is one of them. And what else? No, I don't love myself, but someone gave me this and I have to hang it somewhere, so it's in here. There's my fly rig that I use for my guitar, all my effects, my distortion, overdrive, reverb, delay. It can also be used as a Leslie, a rotating speaker. So that's my pedal, and you guys, if you want my sound, you can go to the store and get one of these too. And that's pretty much it. The other thing, oh yeah, one last thing. So this television mirrors my Pro Tools screen when I'm doing a session. So when I was doing 50 for 50, I would set the session up, and then I'd come down here, and I have a keyboard over there, and I would use that to run the session and record my drums, and then, you know, I could start and stop and punch in and what have you. So you know, that's all wired together basically. There you go. So I was asked about hobbies and that sort of thing. I kind of have a little thing for marionettes and puppets, and so if you come to my house, you'll walk around and you'll see a lot of creatures, and this is one of my favorite ones. This used to live in my bedroom at my old house, but since I moved out here, his name is Henry, and I get him down, but I can't reach that, and I don't want to get a ladder. But it's a beautiful marionette, and I think he might be in one of my videos, but it's really well made, and he's quite handsome. And then I have another creature here. This was made by an artist named D.L. Marion from Pennsylvania. I bought this at her shop in, what town was that? Is it New Hope? And this is not a marionette, but it is a creature nonetheless, and it's quite artistic and quite beautiful. Over here I have another marionette, which was in the dressing room in Eastern Europe at a venue that I played. I want to say it was in Slovenia, and this guy was hanging in the dressing room, and I asked the club if I could have it, and so I brought him. He had a long journey to come all the way from Slovenia to my house. I also collect these little pottery heads. I have a lot of them. These are 2 here, but I've got a bunch down in the entry of my house, and they are made by a guy named Wesley Mucky, and he's from Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from. So this puppet I bought on one of my tours. He's from Prague, Old Town, and I named him LeBron. In the video that I did for you guys, I show you the guitar where I painted him on the guitar. So this is the character, and he has a little tail, which I think is really cute. And I never looked inside the bag, so I don't really know what's in there. Okay, and so this is my collection of these pottery heads that I was talking about earlier, and the fellow in Pennsylvania makes these, and I don't know how close you can get, but they're pretty intricate, and I have them locked in this case because I don't want anyone to touch them, but they're pretty special, so obviously I collect these things too. I never used them, they're just for looks. I wouldn't recommend pouring wine or anything into them. You could, if you wanted to, but I don't think they should be handled. They're just to be on display. Well, I think they're really pretty.